So today, guys, we're working on installing our I.T.T.S trigger from Tyrant CNC into a Springfield Armory Echelon pistol. The Echelon has been incredibly popular since its debuted. This is my personal Echelon, and we're going to show you how you can take this factory trigger and improve it with our I.T.T.S trigger. To start, we just want to field strip this. We want to get at the internals of this pistol, get going on the trigger, so we can remove the magazine, set that aside. Then we're going to lock the slide to the rear. Takedown lever, we're going to flip down. The gun is unloaded, so we're going to let the slide go forward, and then the slide just comes off. We're going to set that aside, we don't need that. So now your gun is disassembled from the slide, no magazine. And then what we want to start working on is getting this central operating group out, the COG, the COG inside the firearm. We're going to take this takedown lever out, give this some wiggles back and forth. Got that to pop out, can set that aside. Now we just have our frame here. And what's holding the COG, the central operating group, inside the frame of this pistol is a tab hooked under here, a tab hooked under here, and then we have your slide lock and the trigger kind of in the way. What we want to do is progress this COG forward. We want to slide it forward. So I'm going to push up on this and push on this. So we just slid that a little bit. Now we're also going to pull the trigger. Right now it's kind of stuck on the trigger. So we just pulled the trigger, relieve some pressure there. Now we're going to try and slide and push the COG forward again. We started lifting it out, and there it goes. So we just need to push on that frame and migrate this tab out of the frame, as well as these tabs out of the frame. So it's just kind of migrating and pushing this COG forward towards the muzzle. Now what we want to do is we start to disassemble this is take a few pieces out. We're going to take this really large stainless steel pin out, as well as your slide lock tabs. This is an ambidextrous unit, one chunk. We're going to take these out. You can push this pin out. I'm just doing that with my fingers. I'm going to pull that all the way out. This is self-contained. Nothing's going to go flying across the room. So we got this pin out. I'm going to just set that down for now. Next, we have our slide lock tabs. We can lift this out. This is all self-contained. It's not going anywhere. So now we have kind of a bare bones COG right now, our central operating group. We just have a few pieces out. We still want to get this trigger though. So now what we're going to do is we're going to drive this silver pin out. So what we can do is use a little punch, push this. We want to push that all the way out. That's just getting started. I'm going to push that all the way through with this punch. It's being a little bucky, but we just want to keep pushing that through. Push, push, push. And there it goes. So we got that pin out. Set that on the ground. Now we have our trigger here, and it's a little loosey-goosey. We have this stainless steel bar with this trigger shoe. We're going to try and lift and twist and wiggle, doing a lot of wiggling and moving, and we got this out. So now this COG, the central operating group of the Springfield Armory Echelon, we're going to set this aside. Don't need that at the moment. So what we have here is a transfer bar, we have a trigger spring, and then this shoe. We're going to reuse this stainless transfer bar and the trigger spring. We want to get rid of this factory shoe, and we want to put in our I.T.T.S trigger from Tyrant. So to get this out of the stainless steel transfer bar, we need to knock this pin out. And what we're going to do is use our little punch here, and you should be able to push, like make sure you have a strong stainless punch so this isn't going to snap or break on you, but we want to push on that pin. I'm going to try and be a little more aggressive off camera. We don't want to break nothing here. So now we've gotten this punched out with our punch, no pun intended. So we have this pin here pushed out far enough where we can take the stainless steel transfer bar out of this factory trigger shoe. So we have that removed. We're going to just set that down, set aside. So now we have our stainless steel transfer bar, our trigger spring, and then we have our brand new gold I.T.T.S Tyrant trigger. And what's special about our trigger is it has a better tactile feel. You have a little kind of chevron patterning here. And instead of having this roll pin that we had to punch out and hammer and, makes life difficult, we have an Allen key screw here. So with the little wrench that's provided with your trigger, you can unscrew this, and if it's a little stiff, use the short end of your Allen key, and we can screw this out. So now when we want to put our transfer bar in, I got to unscrew this a little more. When we want to put our transfer bar in, we can just slide that into place. So that's perfect. No roll punches, no hammers required. Before I do this though, we also give you a little bit of Loctite. This screw is very important because this is part of the trigger shoe, the extra little built-in safety here for that tactile feel. We don't want this screw to walk out ever. The roll pin is pretty stiff and stuck. With our little screw here, we want to make sure it stays in. So with this tube of Loctite we provide you, we're going to get a little bit of Loctite on there. And I'm going to just snip this open. So now we got our cap open, and I'm just going to add a small amount of Loctite to this. So we don't want this running around like water. We just want to get a little dollop on there, just a little drop. So that was a good amount, but not too much. So now we're going to put our stainless transfer bar in, and we can screw this into place. So now that we have that screwed into place, you're all good to go with your stainless transfer bar. As you can see, I put a little too much of that Loctite on. So we just want to kind of wipe that excess. You want to make sure you have a moderate amount on there. I had a touch too much. So now we're ready to start putting our COG and our new I.T.T.S trigger back together again. So what we're going to do is get our COG orientated. So the stainless steel transfer bar is going to go on the right hand side. It hooks into position like this. So we want to get that kind of hinged into place again. Kind of wiggle and jiggle it into place. So now that's where we want it. So then the first thing we can do here is we're going to put our slide lock tabs back in place. Well, actually, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. We'll work on putting this main pin back through here. We're going to put into this hole here, and when you insert that, you actually need to push back a little bit on this little piece right here inside your COG. I'm actually going to back mine out a little bit. Went just a touch too far. And then you can see we have our trigger spring right here, and we need to have that stainless steel bar go through our trigger spring. So I'm going to try and gather that with this punch. We're going to get that in the correct spot here. If we can kind of push and wiggle that forward. right there. So now I just got it caught. Now we just want to push that roll pin through. We got it mainly lined up, so keep pushing, pushing, pushing. Sometimes it can just use a little love tap. We're going to see if we can't get this thing to cooperate and wiggle for us without the love tap, and we did. So now you have your trigger in. We have this pin in. This is all working together. So now we're going to go back to those slide lock tabs. We can just drop that in place. And then you can just manually push this larger pin through as well. So we can push that through. Get it wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And then when we get this in, you can see that's kind of half mooned, half circle here. We want to make sure that the open area of that is pointed down. Because now when we drop this COG, the central operating group, into the frame, we want to leave room for this to rest in the frame. So now we're going to grab that frame. We're going to set this in here. And just like that, it's locked into place. We got those rear tabs we talked about from the beginning, the front tabs. We left the half moon part open so this can all lock in. So the last thing we have to do is insert our takedown lever. We want to push this in, wiggle it a little bit, and once we have it in, you can over rotate here. This will slide into place. Now we can put our slide back on. Let our takedown lever go horizontal. Can grab a magazine, and now we are good to go. Guns unloaded. You can try that trigger a few times. That's just a lot nicer tactile feel for your Echelon. And there you have it. That's all you need to do to install your I.T.T.S trigger from Tyrant CNC. Be sure to watch more of our videos for future components for the Springfield Armory Echelon.